Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies. Welcome to today's panel, Driving Urban Futures, the Role of Cultural Industries in Shaping Cities. Cities around the world are changing, not just through technology or new infrastructure, but through culture. As post-industrial cities work to reinvent themselves, arts and culture are acting as drivers of community building, economic renewal, and global identity. So, how do we create cultural infrastructure of tomorrow while honoring the past? What kinds of partnerships, policies, and ideas are needed to place culture at the heart of urban development? To explore these questions, we're joined today by three outstanding speakers, each offering a unique perspective on the role of culture in shaping our cities. In the middle is Stefano Lo Russo, mayor of Turin, who leads a city that has become a model for how culture can drive inclusive redevelopment in post-industrial contexts. To his right, Irina Bokova, chair of the board of the Democracy and Culture Foundation and former Director-General of UNESCO, brings a global perspective on how culture contributes to sustainable urban growth. And Benedetto Camerana, architect and president of MAUTO, has redefined what a museum can be, blending heritage and innovation in one of Italy's most dynamic cultural institutions. And we're especially pleased to have our guests here from Torino on the occasion of the exhibition Ultraleggera, a design journey with Marcello Gandini between Italy and Qatar, opening tomorrow, April 23rd, and running through June 2nd. So please do visit the exhibition. This was a collaborative project that brought together Qatar Museum, MAUTO, and also VCU Arts Qatar. So let us begin. Stefano, Turin is widely recognized as a major industrial and economic hub long associated with Fiat and other famous automotive brands. In recent years, it has also emerged as a model for how cities can reinvent themselves through culture and community-driven development. And your government especially has prioritized urban renewal, cultural revitalization, and social inclusion. From civic libraries, could we have the slides, please? We have prepared some slides, and we think it's interesting to show them as a background to these questions. So from civic libraries, such as the repurposing of the... And please, if you can give us a clicker, just so we have it, but if we can have slides on the loop. Apologies. Torino, the star of the show. From civic libraries, such as the repurposing of the historic Torino Esposizioni, to broader cultural initiatives, which changes, do you believe, have most significantly shaped the way people experience Turin today?
So, thank you, first of all. Good afternoon to everybody. I'm really proud to be here to discuss about one of the key topic of the strategy of transformation of the city of Torino. Yes. 1, 2, 3, perfetto. Again. So, good afternoon to everybody. I am Stefano Lo Russo, and the mayor of the city of Torino and the mayor of the metropolitan city of Torino. I'm really proud to be here in this very, very important panel to discuss about one of the key topics of our urban strategy, that is, as you mentioned, the way in which culture can reshape the city. Our view is to take our past as an example about what we are, about what we have been capable to do in the past, and to inspire about the city in our future vision. Torino is the city of creativity, industrial creativity, innovation, We are really proud that the European Commission in 2024 selected Torino among decades of city in Europe as a European capital of innovation. The main thing is to work in a city that is capable to bring the past in the present towards the future. And culture is the driver of this present state of urban transformation renewal due to the very important recovery fund the European Commission gave to many cities in Europe after the COVID-19 pandemic event in order to restart. In Torino, we selected the culture as a pillar of our strategy, focusing on iconic restoration works, such as the main public library that will be at the end of the works that is under construction, that is June 2026, one of the leading public library in Europe, in a very iconic building designed by architect Nervi. We have two buildings. One is this, Torino Esposizioni, the other one is Palazzo del Lavoro. And we reshape also the function of our public libraries in the suburbs as centers in order to promote culture and social activity, because in our suburbs we have a very strong network of this kind of function. Students, but not only students, families, elder people and other kind of citizens can enter, take books, speaks, and these are polarity of the social inclusion. So we select this verticality with this. Torino is the city of the book fair, since it's the most important book fair in Europe. And the book and the culture, which is the book is one of the way in which humans transmit culture during the centuries, is the defining our reshaping. Which is the target? The target is to reconsider culture as a social innovator, to think about a public culture for everybody. So this is a very strong public functioning in this way, and using in a positive way the European funds that we take from Europe in order to reshape the imaging, the international imaging of the city. That is to bring our creativity, which is Torino, you said, is one of the most important industrial city. It is. But we don't forget that Torino is a city that creates things, cars, and not only cars. This morning we inaugurate a very important exhibition about one of the top car designer. We have several museums. The feeling of the city is that to be creative. So the culture in that way appear to us during my mandate, the strategy in which we use to transform the city. That's the point.
Thank you. Benedetto, under your leadership, MAUTO, which is the National Automobile Museum, has become a major cultural destination, and not just in Turin, but for the whole of Italy. In your experience, both as an architect and as a museum president, what role do museums and public art installations play in reviving urban neighborhoods?
Well, museums and cultural institutions can play a very, very pioneering role in regenerating towns and or neglected areas of towns. The main example I would like to point is still the Bilbao Guggenheim example, where Bilbao was a city with a dismissed industrial activity, and it was out of the maps. And when a very important cultural institution as the Guggenheim came from New York and decided to open in Bilbao, it changed completely the role of the city worldwide. And so this is a very good example to understand how culture can trigger, how culture can push an area, how culture can really be a revival of a city. Other examples, we can make other examples, lower level, of course. We have been working in for instance, outside of Milano, in an area of Milano which has been completely neglected, which is an industrial area of Milano called Arese, Milano Arese. There was a huge area for the Alfa Romeo. I'm using automobile example, of course, industrial production, which was completely abandoned. And we redesigned the Alfa Romeo Museum there, and the museum was a trigger of a regeneration of the area. And after the museum, a huge, high-quality commercial mall, a shopping mall came, but a very high-quality one. And so around of this, from the museum onwards, it started to recreate new activity. And then Milano is a very strong city in real estate, so it came up. So, but the cultural approach is always a trigger, is a starting point. It's very strong in that. As for MAUTO, for instance, well, I must say that MAUTO, it's the oldest museum of automobile in the world. It was born in 1933, so we have a more than a 90 years old life. And in the 60s, it was built, our actual, you've seen before, our actual building, it was built in 1959-60 as a part of the expo area of the unification of Italy, Italia 61, as we call it. And this building, it's the only one remaining in life of all the expo area, which we all know that is an area that has to be reactivated. And it's a kind of avant-garde in being active in the area. So it's very important. So when we started working on the museum had kind of 140,000 visitors per year. And now we worked with, especially in the last 2 years, with Lorenzo Bravetta, the director we have chosen, coming from, we'll talk about later about our programs. We are now 400,000 visitors, so we are taking activity, taking life in the area. So the museums are very important to urban regeneration, absolutely.
Thank you. And now let's have the more global view on these questions. Irina, how have international cultural frameworks helped cities revitalize their urban spaces? And what role do you think UNESCO should play in supporting cities through cultural and economic transformations?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this panel. And you can imagine that from my experience at UNESCO, what I hear is music to my ears, because UNESCO has been for a very long time advocating for culture to be recognized as an important vector of urban regeneration, but globally, I would say, for sustainable development, for social inclusion, supporting creative economies, and bringing heritage protection with modernity. And I think there are a number of very important platforms that UNESCO has created. I'm very happy also to be next to you, Mr. Mayor, because I had the honor, I was so glad to nominate Turin as the creative city of UNESCO for design. And this was precisely because of this very transformative move towards overcoming and I would say this industrial also building, but making it really as a force for creativity. And I would like just to open brackets and to say that this program of UNESCO of creative cities started already in 2006, and it was encouraging cities in 8 areas such as design, music, literature, culinary, digital arts, crafts, to encourage them to move, I would say, forward in recognizing the importance of culture, but also to mobilize partnerships, private-public partnerships to move along these lines, and also to share experiences. And nowadays we know there are many platforms that are creative cities of film, for example, get together, share experiences, and some others. But I do believe, and this is probably, I would say, the biggest success of UNESCO, was that for the first time culture was recognized in the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030 adopted by the United Nations. Why? because we know that 60% of the humanity lives in cities. By 2030, 7 out of 10 people will live, and then by 2015 even more, 80%. These are the projections. And if we don't make cities livable, the environment there also, which if we don't support creativity, innovation, new technologies that are there, we will not live up to the expectations of what sustainability will be. And I would like to say also from that point of view that probably one of the biggest challenges nowadays, of course, is this kind of a balance between protection of heritage, modernity, technology, and how to make this transition from one to another, which really is a big challenge. And to keep the spirit, the intangibles, as we say, of the city. Because if I may use the metaphor, what we see as an infrastructure is the hardware, but culture is the software, and culture is what makes city livable and humane.
Thank you. And that brings us to our second theme of this conversation, and that is exactly how do we design the cultural infrastructure for the future to make the cities more livable and sustainable. Stefano, how do you integrate culture into the city's broader urban planning and spatial strategies?
But we have to design a multi-level strategy that is to pass from the master plan of the city, which is designing what is the city of the future, which are the connection between the different areas of the city and the public transportation, looking and stressing what is our vision about a vision that is possible to move with public transportation from one side to another side in a very easy and comfortable way, to a lower level, which is the heritage conservation. That is another fundamental topic in a country like Italy that is very, very important in terms of historical heritage. And in this way, to make the possibility to refunction for cultural purposes hubs or existing building. We have several examples in Torino that transmit very clearly what is this philosophy. The most iconic is the OGR, which is the Officine Grandi Riparazioni, which is one of the iconic building of the city in which we had ancient factories where we restore trains in the city center, in the proximity of the Politecnico, that now is an innovation and cultural hub after a renewal that is hosting contemporary art exhibit and so on and so on. But the key, in my personal overview, is to promote and to enforce the public-private partnership. Because, of course, we have to think that also private sector could be involved, should be involved in this kind of strategy, joining together and to bring positive approach to what is the public heritage, also in terms of promotion, also in terms of international standards. And in this way, I think that this is a software, not hardware, in terms of good connection, because the system of culture is a system that should matches different approach, but the key is to be the culture for all. And when I mean the culture for all, I intend that our mission is to pass the cultural heritage also to the people that are not used to discuss about this kind of topic, especially for, and I am convinced that culture is a very powerful mechanism, media for the social inclusion of disadvantaged people. Also in the case in which you have to connect people with beauty. And to connect people with beauty is an improve of what is the dimension of a city, because as the director mentioned before, cities are the places in which we have innovation, we have the best hospital, the best university, the best cultural exhibit, but are also the places in which we have social conflicts, poor people, and drugs, and so on and so on. So cities are is a living entity, and using culture for all, also for both for top society, but also for poor people, could be a way in which the social inclusion mission of culture for all could be take on the bottom, on the ground, and to permit to the city rising up in terms of general meaning of what we intend as the progress. That is a word that is a really nice. We use a lot, but we have to be advised that the progress is if it is for all, not only for a limited setting of the population, because the city is a living mechanism that should grow together. Of course, there are top and bottom, because it's not possible to reverse. It's not correct to reverse, but we have to permit the growing of the city as an entity, not three different cities. This is the mission of the vertical mission of the cultural promotion.
Do you have any examples to give us of this approach that you're championing? Introducing beauty and solving some social problems.
We have two examples. One is to share the beauty with the poor people. We are promoting many activities in schools, in the suburbs, where we have not so positive conditions for the accessibility of a topic, of top initiative. And so we take scholars and schools inside the museum to speak their language in order to share that they belong to a community. Torino is a community. We have a very topic trending in contemporary art or the Egyptian Museum. It is fundamental that they feel the city, they feel to be citizens of Torino. The target is to permit them to be proud to live in Torino, not only for the football, not only for other things, but also for the cultural heritage. In terms of progress for all, we are stressing at administration a lot about the digital development of services. That is very positive in the way that we are in the era of the artificial intelligence. But if we are not advised, we have to enlarge the digital divide between persons that have a very instruments to understand what is the evolution of the. For instance, they use ChatGPT to set and blah, 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 and big portion of the population that are not in the condition. And so, as administration, we work to make a sort of, we have 48 points in the suburbs where we have the digital facilitators for ancient people. So we have to join together students in the university with ancient people to permit to use the app of the municipality also to the people that are not capable to share. I don't know if it is the right way, but in our mission, in order to stress the digital evolution of the city, that is the progress, we have to use the digital twin, many things. I think that is important from our side, from our perspective, to take all belonging to this kind of design, leaving nobody alone and leaving nobody on behind. This is the way. So it's the role of the public. The role of the private is to be involved in this kind of strategy.
Thank you. Next question connects to my previous question, and it's again about MAUTO, which is a museum that is not just about cars. It's a cultural space that feels like a museum of the future, and not just the showcasing of the past. So how does your architectural approach bridge heritage and innovation, both in MAUTO, but also more broadly in urban contexts?
Okay, there are 2 points in your question. One is about heritage and innovation, and about architecture, and the other one is not just about cars. As for heritage and innovation, this is in architecture and in town design. This is typical situation in Italy, where we have a huge, dense, powerful heritage, historical heritage, and whatever project of architecture, we have to deal with history. So, for instance, you've seen before the Museum of Automobile has a very beautiful building from the 60s, so modern architecture, so historical architecture in a way, which has been enlarged for the year 2011 with contemporary architecture, very advanced, very avant-garde, and the two are blending very well. And this is the way we have to do in Italy. Or you have seen some of the images of the, I was mentioning before, the Alfa Romeo Museum. There is this big red kind of canopy, which is a real contemporary feature, which is, by the way, neither retro nor futuristic. It's just a brand architecture, very clear. And it's connected to a building from the 60s, which is considered a protected building. So we have always to deal with past and future, with history, heritage, and present. This is our necessary mission in Italy, because we have such a density of history. And regarding the we are the Museum of Automobile, but in the last 1 year and a half, with the new direction that we have chosen, we are not talking just about automobile culture. We are treating automobile as a multicultural feature, as a multicultural phenomenon, which is very clearly connected to any language in culture. So you can translate it in automobile and art. We have, for instance, we had a fantastic Christian Chironi, who is a very important artist, an exhibition by him on Fiat 127. So we are dealing automobile and other culture. With cinema, we are having Return to the Future exhibition, 40th anniversary next year, so also popular cinema. Photography, we had a fantastic Luigi Ghirri exhibition, his work on Ferrari, and we can go on and on and on. We have a public program in which we treat automobile in literature, in philosophy, in society, in music, pop music. You can talk about cars, not talking about cars, talking about other culture. And this is our mission. And this is really returning, because I don't say doubled, but we are going to double the number of visitors and the number of events and the number of, so the cross culture is really the point about automobile. This is also very interesting, referring to the adventure we are starting with the Qatar Automobile Museum now, so to work together. And of course, design, but design is more logical. Technology is more expected. Industry, technology, and design are the starting point to talk about automobile. We want to broaden that.
Thank you for those comments. I was just looking if the director of Qatar Auto Museum is here, because what you said and how you described MAUTO very much sounded like how he described the Qatar Auto Museum. So there is a lot of synergy there.
Yes, exactly.
Irina, how can cities blend preserving heritage with using new innovative ideas in cultural planning?
I think that cities don't have an option. I think that cities should blend cultural heritage, and I think Turin is a wonderful example, what we just saw and heard from the mayor, because all cities, particularly those who have a rich cultural heritage, they should take measures in order to not just preserve them, but to inscribe them into the modern services and to the other modern planning. It is not just the built, I would say, heritage, but it is also the intangibles. And we were thinking a lot at UNESCO for how to present this as a kind of a platform in order to do it, because it is not enough to use the famous Convention for the Protection of Heritage, which of course is very important. And that is why some more than 10 years ago, we adopted a recommendation. It is a soft kind of a law, not a convention, but before the adoption of a convention on the historic urban landscapes. And this is where this transition from protection of heritage going also to the other parts of the city was, and including also the intangibles, and including the need for sustainability, everything that we are talking nowadays as an important global urban agenda is inscribed. And I think that today, with all of the drive of technology, definitely, all the innovative approaches, all the creativity, I think cities are really becoming one of the, I would say, the bastions of the creative industry. And we know that creative industry nowadays is the fastest growing industry in the world. And if cities can do this kind of a blending of protection of heritage and also creativity and moving towards this new type of economy, they're successful. And we see here a lot of good examples into that. I think Turin is definitely an example, and there are also some very, very interesting examples in the world.
Indeed. Culture has, in a way, become the form of soft power, and cities are competing now how to brand themselves, and also not just through branding, actually, it's also through storytelling. But at the same time, the big challenge is how to remain authentic while they're becoming visible on the world stage. And we were talking about this recently, so I would like you also to share with us a little bit about some examples of how cities, while transforming themselves, have responded to current challenges. What are the examples that you would bring up?
There are indeed, as I said, very interesting examples into that. And I may probably give three examples, which is very much linked also to the image and the positioning of cities in the world. The first one is in Korea, the Republic of Korea, the capital Seoul. It's a very interesting example because if you might remember, there was a financial crisis in the 90s. Korea had kind of a bad image, and there was a lot of strategic thinking of what to do on one side to create a positive image of the country, but on the other side to revitalize the economy. And the emphasis was put on culture, on creativity, on the creative industries. And there was a special strategy of creating a new type of culture, and they call it Hallyu Wave. This is when K-pop appeared, the Korean pop music, very popular. This is where they created a huge film industry in Busan, and a number of other important, nowadays they're moving towards digital. They created the digital city, linking it also with culture. And on one side, it was a very strong, I would say, cultural diplomacy move on the side of Korea. It's a big export industry also, creating an enormous amount of jobs in the country. And creating a very positive image. Why I mention this? This is a top-down approach. When there was a strategy, government, of course, the municipality, and moving down. Another example, briefly only, it's in Kyoto, which is an example when there was a top-down approach, but also a lot of public-private partnerships appeared. And the third example, which I'm sure that many of you also have seen, this is in Latin America. It's Peru, it's Lima, and it is the gastronomic revolution that happened in Peru. Nowadays, we all know the Peruvian gastronomy, the quinoa, but not only, which becomes more popular. And this was not something that was imposed or adopted by the government or municipality of Lima. It was from the bottom. It was where the hospitality, where the associations of culinary specialists, experts, civil society, and others united. They pushed, and it grew, and it came up. And nowadays, we're speaking about the culinary revolution of Peru. But it transformed definitely the capital, and not only, and created also a lot of jobs, created a lot of export nowadays. We know this happening all over the world, and created a very different image of the country and of the city.
Yeah, that's very interesting, this difference between approaches, top-down or bottom-up. It also has a lot to do with cultural policy. And we're seeing more and more cities taking over the responsibilities that were previously mostly on the national level. So I would like to ask you, Stefano, do you believe cities should lead the way in cultural innovation, even ahead of the national or international institutions? And what role should a mayor play in shaping cultural policy?
The last question,
We just
I don't
heard
give any answer
examples
to
of
that.
excellent
No,
leaders.
I think that the positive and the most effective way is to establish a good collaboration between the different levels. I believe that, as I mentioned, the most innovative places are usually cities. If we think about what is the way in which humans, why people are going to live in the city, for many reasons, but the most important is the cities, generally speaking, of course, are the places where we have opportunity of many things, to study, to have a good health system, and so on and so on. From the cultural point of view, cities could be very important promoter of a cultural strategy. That could be to select opportunity over the heritage that they had. In Torino, we have many things to emphasize. Of course, as Italians, we have very big challenge because we have Rome, we have Venice, Florence. So in order to select correctly the priority, we have to put our offer in terms of cultural activity in a in a correct way that could be a sort of sophisticated city. And this is the way in which we can work. So the cities can work and select correctly the priorities, correctly the way in which they can promote abroad in Italy and to invest money. But I think that the way in which we have to work is to work with the different levels. Because especially in countries that are complex in terms of institutional situations such as Italy, is fundamental to select also a broad strategy at the general level. For instance, in Italy, all the legislation for the heritage is national. And so it's fundamental to have a positive way in which the mayors discuss with ministers and select priorities for the whole country. So there is no conflict. I think that it could be synergy. Of course, it will depend also by the attitude of mayors, but I don't know what could be the role of the mayor. The mayor we said that this is the first citizen, and everybody say is the first. No, it's the first that reached the phone call for the damage in the road. Is those that reach the first phone call for the tree that fall down and so on. In that way, is the first. Of course, it's important role the mayors. The mayors, generally speaking, because especially in our country, in which there is a direct election from the electors to the mayor, the role of the mayor is completely different from the role of the minister or the role of, because it's in the proximity of the citizen, and it has been directly elected. And this is a very important challenge, is a responsibility, but also is a positive, in a positive way, is also the way in which you can reshape the city strategy in the future. So the mayors, I agree, could have a role that could be negative, but could be also positive in the way. So as a summary, collaboration, cooperation between different institutional level and enforcing the local strategy to select and work and stress the priorities in the city in a brilliant way. And it could depend also by the mayor.
Definitely. Benedetto, let's talk a little bit about cultural tourism and how does that play in MAUTO. How can digital tools like virtual reality and other online experiences help museums move beyond one-time visits to foster a deeper, more lasting engagement, particularly with international audiences? And what lessons in general have you learned from MAUTO's digital initiatives about enhancing the visitor experience while staying true to the museum's unique identity?
As for digital world, I have a concern about the museum, which is that we represent, in a way, worldwide, the Italian automobile legend, in a way. And the Italian automobiles, you can think, from Ferrari to Maserati to Alfa Romeo, it's great names. And there is, I can see this traveling in the world, there is a huge passion worldwide. When I go to Japan, when I go to California, South America, there is a big passion for Italian automobiles. So my concern is how to, since we represent from Italy, from Torino, which is at the end, it's not 40 million visitors per year, like might be London or Paris. Mm-hmm. We represent this image and how we can have the attention worldwide of all this passion. So digital, of course, it's the point. And we are working to have the digital approach, the remote visit, ways to have a remote visit. So to get in touch, have a first touch with potential visitors from worldwide that maybe one day in their life will come to Torino, why not, to see the museum or to see other museum or to see the town as a value itself. But we have to start through this because we are not just one in many. We are the symbol of the Italian automobile, which is a big legend. So this is one very important point. And then, of course, the digital devices are becoming in a physical museum also a super important approach to have immersive, participative, a behavioral approach towards your visitors. So you do not just see a beautiful car there, but you have to interact in different ways. And in this case, we are planning, for instance, the future mobility, which is the area we brand new opened last week. The visitors will interact with, let me call it, whatever you want to know, you will find this here about the future of mobility, about how the scenario, the urban scenario will change in the next 5-10 years. Yeah. We have all these technological partners, research partners, companies, Torino Polytechnic is with us. And so they find this and they enter about the subject with an interactive way, with totally immersive devices. And this is what also we do as in architecture, to use all the possible new technologies to have the attention of the visitors in a different way. We are designing this future space museum, the Space Center in Torino, which will be, you can imagine, the space adventure, the space exploration. It's a subject which can be enormously passion, a big passion for people. So to have an immersive technology system would be fantastic. We are doing this with a spaceport in the south of Italy, which have also kind of, spaceport is a place where you jump on a mothership and you go up in the orbit and you return down. This will happen in the next 5 years. This will be the Mediterranean spaceport. There was an image before. And also this one, there will be another museum which will be totally immersive, totally digital, and because we are not sending all the people up in the orbit. We are doing the same with Sport Museum. We did this with Juventus Museum 10 years ago. We are doing this Sport Museum in Athens. I mean, now the physical and the digital are really have to blend completely into a museum.
Absolutely. Speaking of digital innovation, can it help Turin become not just a smarter city, but also greener and more inclusive one, which seems to be your goals in all these projects? How does digital fit in there?
But I agree with Benedetto because we have to match the traditional of the heritage with the digital innovation and to apply the digital innovation in the strategy of the city as well as we are performing now in Torino. Of course, digitalization is a huge opportunity for many things, but I think that is a device and not only the target. What I mean, it's very important to have a strategy of the urban city development, to set out what are the priorities for us. For instance, is the climate neutrality, which is we are being selected among the 100 cities in Europe to sign the climate contract city with the European Commission. That is a very ambitious program in order to reduce our carbon dioxide emission till 2030 in a very significant way. In this way, working on this framework, of course, we have the necessity also to reshape the city. For instance, I give a very clear example. We discussed in a public newspaper with Benedetto about what I meaning, and I know that he understands very well what is my example. The traffic in the city could be a very, very problematic because we have problems of compatibility in our spaces because our cities are historical cities with small roads. That is our heritage. So one of the topic conflict on the table of the mayor is conflict between the usage of the roads, bikes, cars, pedestrian, and so on. The space is limited. The necessity is are all present. Those that are asking to the mayor, okay, I have the shops, so I needed the client arrive with the car just in front of the shop. They go down because if you don't take the permitting for the car to stop in front of the shop, I lost client. I closed the shop, and so on and so on. This is a typical problem that as a mayor I have, but it is present in all cities. So what is the way in which we have to work? To select clearly what are the priorities. For instance, from my side, I am a very big fan of pedestrian area in the city centers of the city. Because especially in cities as Torino that is a very nice cultural heritage, architectural heritage, is a way in which we can reshape the city to permit to the pedestrian area to be developed. I know that there are conflicts. In which way we can use digital innovation in order to select data? Because one of the key topics is to have a strategy that is also based on data analysis. And because numbers is not entering in the political decision as much as they did, and instead is really important to use and to have a correct approach based on data. And the usage of the data is fundamental, and technology, for instance, the remote sensing that we can use to make temperature maps of the city, or the state of art of the traffic volume in the different roads, can help the decision maker to make the right decision. So knowing very well that there is no decision without any damages, or there is no decision that should have only positive vibes for everybody. Because when I close a street or when I put a cam on a preferential road, I have to select a way in which people should take more time by car rather than bus to move from one point to the other point. It's a political decision, okay? Technology can help also to demonstrate the reliability of the decision, and in this way, I think that is a positive also in the official and public discussion about the decision in the city. So, knowing very well that the technology is a fundamental tool for the right political decision, the transparent political decision that is not ideological, but is very important that you have an imaging about your city in the next 10, 20 years. Because decision that you have to take now could have effects very, very positive, and not in the immediate way, but they could have very positive effects in the future. I discussed last week with Major Hidalgo in Paris. If somebody walk in Paris and imagine what was Paris 10 years ago, and now if you go in Paris now, in the city center is completely different, because they was very, very conflicting with the car owners, with the property owners, and so on. But it's the straight way, and everybody should be confident with it is good or not. But is in the reshaping of that kind of city center, she was really, really strong, and it is a model of the city. In that way, I think that if we use digitalization and digital data to support, to explain our decision, I think that is a positive way, an additional way also to enlarge the base of consensus about the decision, without losing to design the city of the future. Okay, because don't decide is decide, and it is important that you have to learn by any bad lesson, to listen to everybody, but to go straight away in a direction, in a positive way, in the dialogue, and the citizen with the election decide if the transformation is positive or not, or change the government, change the mayor, is the democracy, and we are proud of it.
So on that inspiring note, and since we're running out of time, I have many other questions, but I would like to open the floor for the audience to ask our speakers.
My name is Ashraf Abu Isa. Thank you very much for the inspiring panel. I have two questions, one for you, Mr. Mayor, and one for the panel as a whole. The question for the mayor is about the infrastructure. You mentioned a little bit about the roads and the small roads, historical roads that cannot take today's or cannot serve today's purpose. But what about other issues? You know, when you talk about cultural sustainability, always comes in place. Do you adapt other infrastructure, or say facilities, to be able to accommodate this new outlook and new vision for the city? And is that always a challenge? This is the question. And then for the panel, you've spent a few days now in Doha. I would like to have at least one comment from each about what things we can improve here urbanly.
I start from the second question. It's my first time in Doha, and I am really, really impressed about to be honest, the real clear urban design. I travel a lot. I look at many cities in the world. I don't know who is the planner, but my compliments, because it's very nice to be observed, and is very clear to me that there is a strategy for the urban development, and many details such as the spaces for traffic, the spaces for pedestrian area, and so on in this very not so easy climate condition that is I really appreciate. Related to the first one, we have different action that should be matched. The first one is on the roads and the traffic, as I mentioned. Of course, the strategy of by administration is to enforce the public transportation. So we are now, we design, and I hope in 2026 we will start with subway line number 2, which is crossing the city from the north to the south, in order to permit to the person to be moved from one side to the other side without a car. Moreover, to enlarge the pedestrian area in the city center, but not only in the city center, also in the suburbs where there are conditions. My personal feeling when we have pedestrian areas is that the people enjoy a little bit better to stay in the city, and they can walk and so on and so on. That is conflicting, to be honest, because there are a lot of people that don't want to change habits, a lot of people that won't use the car to move, to go to the shops, and so it is a big discussion. So in my personal overview, the key point is to clearly set what is the strategy, to make a positive dialogue, to match the detail of the project. So if you have a very local problem to try to solve, but in progression, I think that the cities, especially historical city as Torino is a city in which we can permit the emerging of the heritage. And we go back to the panel. The heritage, the architecture is part of the culture of the city. And the historical heritage is fundamental to be also, they can rise up because it's present. We have to, in a positive way, to highlight to the citizen.
Well, maybe I could say regarding your last question, because unlike the mayor, I have been coming to Doha since already maybe 16, 17 years. And every time I see the city reinventing itself, of course, I think the World Cup was really a major stimulus and for making the city really an international hub. Out of the many museums, we know today that there is such a dynamic atmosphere here and such a dynamic cultural arena. Of course, I love many of the museums, the Museum of Islamic Art, which is a marvel, national museum, but I really like something which was very innovative, the Sports Museum, which I discovered last year, which was built after the World Cup. And not just because of the sports, but because of the culture, the history. It was very much linked to the culture of humanity in the different areas. And it was very innovative also for me to discover. That's why I say that every time I come, I see Doha reinventing itself and adding something new, something that I haven't seen anywhere else. And the second part, of course, is this very multicultural environment. We didn't have time to speak, but cities where our cultural dialogue also is playing. Cities are diverse. And I think this example here also of Doha is a very telling, once again, example of what a multicultural city and tolerant city can represent.
Benedetto, would you like to comment?
Yes, I would like to say that I would do it, I would tell it the other way around. We have to learn from Doha, I think, because the urban development has been, it's really inspiring. And of course, I'm very much impressed by the quarter, the borough where we are hosted by the yes, Mushreb, I don't know how to say it. At the moment, they know me already, all the people around, because every morning or evening I walk around to see the corners of this area, which is fantastically designed. And with all the very good points in urban planning, for instance, the mix of pedestrian and automobile roads is perfect, and the automobile disappear underground in huge car parks, so they don't stay in the streets. There are fantastic pedestrian areas with gardens, with water, with a tram going around. So it's a kind of fable. It's such beautiful contemporary architecture with also heritage buildings preserved and properly restored, and it's and also the scale of the buildings. It's really the variety of buildings. So it's full of life, full of activities. Of course, probably if I come mid-July, outside will be less, but also I've seen a lot of shadow systems that are studied to make it less strong, the heat in the summer. So this is just an example, but it's an example of very high quality, and I think that also we from Europe, generally speaking, from Italy, we can learn from Doha.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't give hints or ideas, I would like to take ideas.
Indeed, and Mesherab is based on principles of traditional architecture. So the wisdom of traditional architecture is woven into its very modern design.
It's a mixture of traditional and contemporary. You can see it is a fantastic blend, and it's working very well.
Sorry.
We met our mayor, Mrs. Drago, which is a good mayor. She's very progressist and she had a very good and strong vision, but she forgot the people. I am living in the center, close to the Louvre Museum, and it's begin now a nightmare, totally a nightmare. And we can be on always on holidays. We are working, and she wants that we begin cyclist or pedestrian. So it's very complicated to save the heritage, but we haven't to forget the human heritage and people freedom. And in Qatar, j'ai constaté, I saw that the car is not the enemy. The car is welcome, and we can move very easily, and that's a great experience.
Yes, I use is a sort of my personal. I apologize. Is a sort of my personal provocation to take Paris an example, because I completely agree, which is a very radical approach, and when our yes, but I think that it's very impressive, the urban transformation. I give the answer about which is the role of the mayors. The role of the mayors could be very, very intense. And Paris, in my personal opinion, is the example of a very radical role of the mayor. And I completely agree about what is the way in which this kind of transformation should be performed, which is with the people. So the challenge for the mayor is to establish an equilibrium between the vision and the way in which kind of vision should be worked on, respect which is the reality. What I mean, when I make a change in the traffic condition of a road, of course it's not the case of Doha. Doha is a very large road, so you have a lot of potentiality to work, but in our cities it's not the situation. Torino is a little, is nice, but of course, in the city center, we are not that kind of condition. So, what is the challenge for the mayors? When we discussed with the shops owner, they told to me, Mayor, if you stop the traffic in this road, I will have to close the shop because nobody will arrive on my shop because I need to have the car parking in nearby, and so on and so on. If I have the shops that close, I have a potential damage for the commercial situation, but also in terms of social problems, because the shops open are lights on the street, security, safety, and so on and so on. So the way in which we have so the decision to do nothing, in my personal opinion, is not the correct decision, because to do nothing and to maintain, to be conservative, is not the challenge of the contemporary way. I agree, on the other side, that you have to balance the different requirements that you have to do, but without losing the energy to be the transformation operative. I know that the success and the failing case history of this kind of strategy are very, very useful for the decision-making process. In Torino, we have very positive, successful decision of pedestrian ways, such as Via Lagrange, for instance, that is in the city center, that I remember because I was in the council since 26, so it's 20 years. So I discussed many of this kind of transformation that were very positive, because we have a very big conflict with shop owner, but after the pedestrian area, they are very happy that because we have the change of the shops, but the shops remain open. On the other side, we have in Torino, not in Paris or in Torino, situation in which the pedestrian area establishing without instruments, depleted the shops, depleted the trades, the commerce, and induced the grade. So, to be honest, there is not a correct answer. There is the potentiality to explore the way in which we can transform cities. It's a long process, yes. Not too long, because it's too long we run, but it's necessary to have the good way, and in this way, for instance, data analysis is fundamental. When we discuss about traffic condition, we have not to be sensitive, because by itself, or the journalists that write on the newspaper, when the journalists go out from the house as a problem, so I have newspaper debate, because the problem is the journalist's problem, it's not the problem of the cities. That's the point. So instead of this kind of a sensitive approach, individual approach, using data related to the traffic conditions, so which is the perturbation of the traffic in the city, could be very, very, very. I think last, but I don't want to discuss in that way, the key is the public transportation network, because in order to make and to stress the transformation of the city, you have to pose alternatives to the people. If you don't have alternatives, Paris is 8, 9 lines of metro. So you go from Saint-Denis to the city center by metro, so you have a lot of alternatives to the car. If you don't have alternatives to the car, you cannot work and stress a lot. So it's a balance, it's a mix of actions, restriction and incentives to the public transportation by means of effective public transportation network. But mobility is the key.
Can I just jump in? And I'm French too, and I love cycling in Paris. But I want to go back to Qatar. It's my second or third visit here. I was invited by Meshereb Properties a few years back. And I worked all my life in driving funding to the art and supporting cultural development. I had the chance to work in Abu Dhabi for national years of Sadia, Thailand, 2008 and 10. But also for Art Basel, coming to Hong Kong, launching a show over there. I was one of the directors, and the transformation and impact we had in Miami Beach. Today, the Council of Miami Beach and Basel report $500 million of economic impact during the week of the show. That's not mentioning the secondary impact of the city development. The point I want to make today is just a comment is that I congratulate our friends Qatari for their commitment to art and culture, for the infrastructure we have today here, which obviously can grow, but then it comes also to content and bringing content that connect our French people through human contact in Paris today is certainly the space we have. But bringing content that bring cultures together, and I've seen cities. I worked in Buenos Aires for the government of Buenos Aires for 3 years under an Art Basel Cities program, which was really about connecting the city to the world through art and culture. So I think the power of cities to take the lead in connecting beyond states with other cities around the world and share culture and exchange is very important. And this is what we can see here. So I'm just very happy to be back here and to go back to the National Museum tomorrow and the Islamic Art Museum and spend some time there. But I just want to say thank you and congratulations for what you have achieved today in art and culture also. And Turin, by the way, has an extraordinary art fair called Artissima too that you mentioned. Yeah, thank you.
I will connect to that and thank our speakers. We went over the time limit, so thank you very much. And if you have more questions, I think we can continue after this panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.